Welcome to the Journey Podcast, the podcast that's all about you. The podcast that interviews interesting guests and listens to their journeys of where they've been, where they are now, and where they are going. And welcome to the Journey Podcast. It's my pleasure today to have Jason Kenney with us today, and he is with Rising Impact. Rising Impact is a transformation coaching service, and Jason can give us a lot more information about what that means. But Jason has just an incredible service. I've had a little bit of time to get to know him here today, and just really neat story and really neat things that he's doing over there at Rising Impact. How you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing good. I really appreciate you having me today, Nate.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity, and I know a lot of people are focused on their health, especially around this time of year. So tell us what your business is and what you do there at Rising Impact.
Sure. The gist of it, Nate, is that I'm a career-driven, busy father transformation coach, and along my journey of being an ex-athlete and a personal struggle later in life that I've had and overcoming that is kind of what was the basis of launching the company, right? And then, there's a much bigger down the road picture of aspirations and things like that. But being about a year in and loving it on the, the entrepreneurial side. But at the end of the day, currently we work with busy men who may be struggling with weight or just, looking to transform their bodies, and kind of created a 4-pillar approach based on a lot of years of trial and error and personal struggles of working out the kinks of what actually works, what doesn't. And what we have found is, what we have going on with that individualized, customized support is really where the magic happens. So it's not necessarily a program. I think we've discussed it's not a program. It's a result.
So you're trying to help people change their lives through what you're doing.
Yes, I think in the fitness industry, a lot of things can get pigeonholed into fitness is life. And it may be for some, but I've always enjoyed it, but that's not my story. I was a corporate guy for a while, and I still love to work out. That was the athlete in me. But then different parts of life happen, and I have a family, and I can't spend hours a night at the gym. And it's really a tool. What I found that it's a tool to enjoy the more important things in life, to stay healthy.
So you're making you're coaching people on how to make this a part of their everyday life. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
In the way you walk and the way you eat and everything you do. This is really a lifestyle change, not just something that you do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the gym.
Correct.
Yeah, that is awesome. So tell me a little bit about how you came into this role. I read here in your bio that you were working as a corporate accountant, and now that's not typically what I would think of my accountant being the guy that's going to give me workout advice. He's usually the guy probably is going to have a heart attack because he's stapled to that desk, 50 hours a week, getting all those numbers crunched.
Yeah. I wasn't too satisfied in that role. I always knew personally that my calling was somewhere else, and it just took me a while to figure it out. I didn't know really what that looked like or even how to get there. So I kind of just became okay with, what it was. I always enjoyed volunteering coaching and doing things like that for sports. And I always said, oh man, if I could get paid to do this, this would be a no-brainer. Not that it's about the money, but you get what I'm saying. I have a role to play within my household, and that's to provide support in one form or
Right.
another.
Right.
And I didn't know how to exercise that. And looking into those things, of really, I took a step back. I did a lot of contract roles on assignment for accounting, and then in the gaps would kind of think, what is it I would have time to figure, what is it that I really want to do? And what I always enjoyed was serving others, adding value to people's lives. It's just something that I've enjoyed, and kind of taking a step back and saying, if I'm going to start my own business, like, what do I want it to look like?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it was, Nate. And how I found it was during that personal struggle of not really getting the answers that I wanted, right? I had years outdated information from personal trainers that I had. And the current situation, I wasn't finding what was working. I'm not big on restriction, and I never was. I didn't want to adapt my whole lifestyle of, these are the 4 foods that I can eat for the rest of my life, and that's it. If I
Yeah.
fall off path, that's the end of it. And it's not that drastic, but that's why those are still around, and why I found that, people, including myself in the past and that are still in my life, revisit that same diet multiple times a year. And I was really looking to do something. I was going to commit and do what I needed to do to make the problem go away, because it wasn't just my weight. It was the way that I felt. It was my energy. It was my confidence. And it was what I was really bringing to the table for my family. Because if I wasn't mentally there, was I really being, I was physically showing up, but something was missing. And internally, I wasn't that happy, which I just knew that there was more to life to that.
Wow. So you needed this business as much as for yourself as other people need your business. Does that sounds like what it is?
Yeah, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the struggle. Being in this industry now, I know people, awesome people who do similar things. In a way, with maybe a different goal in mind, but it's just not something that I found at the time. And that was kind of pre-fitness going online. I'm sure COVID forced a lot of that situation. Whereas when I got, my certifications, it was originally for a self-benefit. It was, I'm not really getting the answers that I want or that I've invested in. So if this is what entitles them to give out this information, I'm going to go get it, and I'm going to see what I can find from there.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed a rise in online fitness since the pandemic, and maybe just a better conversation around fitness in general. So you're coaching people in this type of lifestyle. Where does one start with that? What do you think the mindset that somebody needs to start to even go down that road?
Just to be, there's no real qualifications. It's really just that leap of faith, and that trusting in the individual that's going to guide you.
Okay.
Because that's where the one-to-one support brings, right? It's, do I trust that Jason and or team is, going to deliver to me? And when I fall off track, we're here to pick you up. And it's kind of, we operate off the 4-piece schedule, and kind of what that looks like is fitness, nutrition, mindset, like you mentioned, and accountability. And with all 4 of them implemented at different times, but eventually operating like a well-oiled machine, it's easy to stay on track. So the mindset just needs to be commitment to join, to say, hey, I'm ready. I'm tired of being tired. Again, I was the busy corporate guy. I needed something that fit into my life. All right. I couldn't just stop everything and then go spend 8 hours a day trying to get healthy. I
Right.
needed to find that information that could fit effortlessly into my life, but it was the right information. And that's kind of what we tried to bring to the table, is try to just add as little friction as possible with small changes at different periods of time, and help these men transform their lives.
So you have a business and a service that's a high trust thing. I have to really trust you. How do you go about helping people establish that trust with you?
Just being real and authentic and having a conversation,
Yeah.
seeing where people are at, right? I mean, we're a new business, so we get out there when we can. And it's not something that's for everybody. Will it work for everybody? It likely,
Mm-hmm.
as much as they work it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I know that what I would want is to have a conversation with somebody, right? For somebody to understand where I was coming from. It didn't necessarily have to be my specific situation if I was looking for it, but I think with me and having walked in anyone's shoes who is coming into my program, I would feel pretty confident that outside of whatever certificates they have on their wall, that at the end of the day don't, doesn't really mean anything, but that personal experience. And not, I think with any business, it goes without saying in the service world, like, you know, not treating somebody like a dollar sign. Like it's an individual. I am equally as invested in the people who invest in me. And I don't know that I try to establish that in the beginning. I can tell you that my current clients would certainly vouch for that.
So Rising Impact treats their clients in the same way they would like to be treated, is what we could say. And I think that's awesome. So you've been in the role for a year, Jason, thereabouts. And what would you say is one thing that has happened in that last year that maybe you didn't expect to happen?
How much there is to it on the business side.
Oh, yeah.
The building, right? There was probably a 6-month period, Nate, where friends of mine, maybe people who knew me my whole life on social media, probably all of a sudden were like, I didn't even know he was doing this,
Yeah.
right? Because I was building it and, adding different things to my business and kind of seeing what's out there and learning. And same thing. I needed somebody who I was looking to do this. I found somebody who was doing this, had great success with this, who had walked the path that I was trying to walk, and I hired them to coach me
Well,
in
that's
building my
awesome.
business. And when I was ready, upon guidance, it's just been helpful, because it's this kind of a similar situation with that, but with me, but on the business side, their mistakes have now been implemented into a platform and a path, the same way that my years of frustration and mistakes, with the wellness journey can be passed on to my clients as well.
So, what would you say is a common myth about your job, about the coaching that you do? A new client comes to you. What's the most common myth that you hear from them?
Um, I don't know that it's a myth. Um, because I don't really know that. I feel like it's the same, because it does exist. So I don't think it's a myth, but I feel like the trial and error, the common denominator across the board is, what have you tried? It's generally the same. I don't want to name names of the different programs out there. But they usually tried them all or a few. and they may have had success and it didn't last,
Mm,
and they're tired of doing it again.
right.
They're tired of changing everything to follow this one way to lose weight fast and not know how to keep it off.
Wow, that's great. So helping them find something that's going to concrete for the rest of their life. So what do you think has been the most important lesson that you've learned through this process of developing your business and coaching your clients?
Learn the amount that I can learn from them as well.
Mm,
And that, I mean, I knew this ahead of time, and I'm a believer in that, is that no two are the same, because I feel like, everybody starts the same, and they may even be the same height and weight, but that doesn't mean if they follow the identical thing that they're going to get the same results.
wow. So everybody's a little
really
different.
being able to optimize along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's great to hear. I think that some people feel like they get cookie cutter. It's got to be one way or the other, and that's the only way it'll be. So you being a coach, what do you think is the most important personality trait that you need to be a coach?
Definitely to be understanding, and then also to be what I consider a coach, like I've had growing up. Maybe the ones that aren't afraid to tell me the hard things, but in a loving way.
Oh, okay. That's great. So you mentioned that you had a mentor, right? You had a coach that coached you. Who would you say, who is that person? Can you tell us a little bit more about them?
Um,
You don't have to mention any names, or there's some big athlete that you're under a non-disclosure with. So
yeah, we can keep it like, it it was good. I can share my experience with it, just because, I don't know where they're at with that. I'm still working with them.
that's great.
It's a support thing, and it's individualized at this point. So certainly I don't think that they would mind if I mentioned, but I don't want to do it without
That's
acknowledging.
fine. I think it's great that a coach that gets coached. Do you see that as an important thing for coaches to have a coach?
I do. I feel like I'll always have one now. I
Yeah.
really do. There's so much to learn, and it doesn't always. What I've also learned is that it doesn't always have to be in that same realm,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My coach has a couple coaches.
Okay.
He has a mindset coach. He has different specifics, and certainly a business coach, which is funny, right? He's a business coach, but he has a business coach. You hear coaches need coaches, but it's to have that worked out for you, especially when you're, being a solo entrepreneur. I mean, there's only so much that you can do. So, I mentioned like time and accuracy. And when you're trying to grow or build it so that if it does grow, you can handle it. If somebody already knows how to do that efficiently and faster than you could to remove that headache, it's worth the investment to me.
Right. Yeah, I think that's super important. So what do you think is one lesson that this job has taught you that everybody should learn?
Oof. For two things for me, one on like a greater personal level, but the first one is time blocking for me. I'm in a million different directions every day, and if I start doing one thing, it can turn into five, and none of them get, and they all five end up unfinished at the end of the day. So it was really just structuring myself. And you would think, oh, this guy was an accountant. Didn't he have like a plan? Like I did, but I was forced into that plan because there was deadlines that other people needed. And it was my butt on the line if I didn't. So it was just the first thing I did if I wanted to keep getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
But when I'm my paycheck and trying to grow the business at the same time, just really trying to see where was my need for that day or that moment, and just kind of building things in that way. And the other thing I learned was just patience and trusting the process, because I had heard it from different people, and I listen to, to some other podcasts, and sporadically. I don't even know the names of them all off the top of the head. If somebody sends me the link, I'll check them out in the little free time that I have or before bed while I'm listening to it falling asleep. But kind of say that, in their delivery of trusting the process, and it takes time, right? Because you kind of like make this investment and say, I'm going to start my business, and then it's kind of like, it's kind of crickets for a little bit. And then just being, I guess what I'm saying is, and also getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I never have, done this before, or, the coaching thing, yes, but the process to get them to me, no.
Right.
So, and it's really been fun. It's been, at times it was stressful, just, building all over the place, but it's been awesome. So trusting the process and just getting out of my comfort zone. And it's been challenging, but I'm so much better all around for it. It's something I never even would have considered 3 years
Yeah.
ago.
That's really awesome, just to think about getting out of your comfort zone. And then through that, is there things maybe I assume, or maybe I shouldn't assume, you've formed opinions about what you're doing that maybe other coaches don't necessarily agree with you about?
Could you maybe rephrase
Well,
that?
I would say, like, do you have like a specific method that you use that most other coaches wouldn't agree with you on? You say this really works for me, but most other coaches would say, no, that doesn't work for us.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I said it earlier, and it's kind of, giving my clients the time that they need. If they want to chat. It's not 15, it depends what you're looking at. But if I'm on a coaching call and it's 15 minutes, I'm not, and they have something to say, or their conversation gets sidetracked, it's hard to pull them back in and then shoot them off the call.
Right.
There's that, like, you have to be that stubborn coach, like stubborn, firm coach, because you're the coach. And there is that, like, but at the same time, you need them to trust. So there is that friend thing, but at the end of the day, you're their guide.
Right.
So they're looking to you for information, and you need to be confident about that information. But, you could also, I feel like I give more time than was suggested by a bunch of other different platforms that I learned from.
So, but through that, you talked about time blocking, and you have some efficiency built into your day. What would you say has been your favorite productivity hack?
Productivity hack?
Yeah.
Both the time blocking and mindset.
Okay. Yeah, just that approach with that. Are you a morning person, night person? When do you get your best work done?
I'm a morning person. I mean, I'm both. I don't have a choice right now.
You don't have an off button, right?
I'm generally a morning person, and that's
Okay.
what when I talked about mindset, like my clarity 5 minutes is first thing in the morning, because if I go check an email, I was just talking about to somebody with it today. If I go to open an email, I'll get distracted with something else. I won't even read the email. I'll never have my 5 minutes to reset. So I do it first thing before anybody's up, and that's my time to kind of just gather my thoughts. And sometimes it may be walking the dog, but it's kind of just to collect myself and kind of let myself not run around inside my ears. And it takes practice over time to not have anything going on up there, but it's really kept me calm and less fearful about all these things need to get done. And it helped me prioritize to say, okay, this what needs to get done, not all 10. If this most important task doesn't get done, then it's a deal breaker. If the other 9, they can all wait.
Yeah, that's great. So what would you say is the most underrated tools that are just indispensable for your job?
Software.
Software. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of software, just, something to track, something to deliver for your clients to kind of keep their information in one spot so that it doesn't get all mixed up with other conversations that could be, marketing or family or personal, and it gets lost in the shuffle. At least you can identify, here they are, whether it's conversations in one spot, after a period of time with some habit changing and some weight loss, the data becomes a little more important. So that's certainly good to have, because you don't have to pivot or really make guesses. And at that point, you can, change up depending on what needs to be changed. Again, is it the nutrition? Is it the workout? It's pretty, if you have the information, it's pretty easy to identify where the issue likely lies and to make a change.
That's fantastic. So doing the coaching, but I love this question. What other occupation other than what you're doing right now would you like to try in the future?
Occupation?
Yeah.
Like hobby or for job?
If you say, man, I would just love to try, jumping out of airplanes for a living.
Oh yeah. Definitely more traveling.
Okay.
Yeah, just we've always had kind of a couple places we'd like to go and kind of just go kind of give back. And that's kind of what the impact stands for in our business. Yes, it's fitness related now. There's such a bigger picture and dream for us down the line. It will always be this at the core.
Right.
And this was, the start of that, building that foundation. But yeah, to be able to go places. I said it last night because we were at a Christmas show with my family, and I've been talking about wanting to learn how to play the keyboard or the piano.
That's awesome.
Never touched one. I mean, I've touched one, but I've never sat down and actually tried to do it. I don't know. Something came up a few years ago. I said I was going to try to learn, and then COVID happened, and I never tried. And then I opened a business, and then piano didn't seem to on the level of having time to do.
Yeah. So one of these days we'll have to have Jason, the piano
Yeah.
concert pianist. Okay. Thanks, Jason. I have a couple of rapid fire questions here at the end. What are 3 books you would recommend to the audience and why?
3 book would be, one would be The 4 Agreements. I've read that multiple times at different points in my life, and it's just something that helps resurface kind of my core beliefs and kind of what I bring to the world with inside them. Another book is called I'd say it's Shaken by Tim Tebow. And it's kind of his journey. It's a few years old, but I really like that book. And I read it long before business, but it just kind of talks about his journey and, because he's a public figure, most know the journey, but he talks a lot about what people don't know, and just the amount of talk about trusting the process, the amount of faith that he had to just have no fear to pursue the things that he loved, regardless of what anybody said, whether they worked out or not, and all the different directions he went through, and just always just kept going. I respected that. And I haven't read anything else too recent. Honestly, I've read more more business books, here and there at this point.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, so another question for you is, I'm starting a business today. What's one word of wisdom that you would give me?
Starting a business today, one word of wisdom that I would give you: definitely sit down with somebody who has done what you do. Right? Not every industry has a coach, so that would be like kind of a cliche answer, but definitely sit down with an individual that that you trust, and put your ego aside and say, how did you get to where you got?
That's awesome. That is great advice. So I've asked you a lot of questions today, Jason. I appreciate you being on the Journey podcast, but maybe there's one question that you've been holding your breath, you're hoping I would ask you today. Is there any of those questions still?
I don't think so, Nate.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate you being on the Journey podcast today. It was a pleasure spending some time with you. Jason, Rising Impact is the name of your company. Can you tell the listeners, where can we find you online and learn more about your business?
Sure. So the website will be up soon, and it'll be therisingimpact.com. Aside from that, you can find me on social media at my personal profile is Jason Kenney. On Instagram is at jkennyfit. And that's the three places that you can find me.
Awesome. So go to therisingimpact.com, find Jason Kenney there. Great to just spend some time with you today and get to know you today, Jason. It was a pleasure, and thank you so much for being on the Journey podcast.
It was awesome. Thanks so much, Nate. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Jason.